Hi. I just realized walking up here that every time I get on a stage, I have a fear I'm going to fall off of it. So I think I'm going to stay in this nice red comfort zone. I need to move this because I am a klutz, and if there's a way to trip and hurt myself, I will. And actually, the feeling I'm having right now is perfect for the subject of my talk, which is how fears can encroach upon our lives and make our comfort zones smaller, and what we can gain when we try to face the fears and expand our lives. I love this topic. I'm so obsessed with it. I wrote a book called Some Nerve: Lessons Learned While Becoming Brave, and I blog about it at psychologytoday.com and at Facing 40 Upside Down. I've spent 4 years looking at common fears. Now, these are ones that you and me, ordinary people, can conquer. So fears of water, heights, public speaking, driving, things like that. Now, fear is a valuable protective mechanism, so there are some fears that I think are life-saving and we should just not mess around with. So I think we should all keep a healthy distance from fire and from clowns. Now, the story of how I became captivated by this subject, or perhaps more aptly, how fear captivated me, began right here at Hunter High School over 20 years ago. I was an armchair kid. I think reading Nancy Drew was about enough excitement for me. The only athletic thing I did when I was little was run away from the bullies who would chase teachers' pets all the way home. But here at Hunter, I fit right in. Hunter is a school that draws bright, eager-to-please kids from across New York City and teaches them from the time that they're 12 years old that they will change the world. You know, the school motto is, "The care of the future is mine." Wow, that's a responsibility. Our teachers, our parents had really high expectations for us, and we did not want to let them down. So we worked hard. You know, if the care of the entire future is at stake, I'm going to do test prep. We did extracurriculars to show our leadership potential. We took summer jobs to show our work ethic. We did college credits to show that we were so good at college, we could ace it even before we got there. So we were groomed to show our strengths. You know, don't show your weaknesses. And so anything that was really difficult or that might pull down the GPA was a distraction. And anything that didn't lead to a logical next step. You know, if you're going to take AP Bio, it's because you're going to be pre-med, right? Anything that didn't make that logical sense was a waste of time. So it was very intensely competitive here, and I think for some students that really bolstered confidence, and for others it sowed seeds of anxiety. And for me, I think it did a little of both. I did quite well coming out of Hunter. I went to an Ivy League school. I had a good career that peaked with a job at the New York Times. So what was the problem? Well, if you feel that you don't want to take any step unless you're guaranteed to ace it, eventually your life is going to shrink. And that's what happened to me. Indeed, when I gave up that full-time job to parent, all of a sudden every day was new territory with outcomes that I could not control. Without my big job, I felt this big loss of identity. And without a ladder to climb, I felt like any step I took was like leaping off a cliff. So by the time I was 39 years old, my comfort zone looked more like this. It's so comfy. This is the perfect place from which to watch other people have adventures on TV. Oh, The Amazing Race is on. If it were up to me, I would have stayed here. But then my 8-year-old daughter was having a hard time going off the diving board at camp. And I said to her, "Go on, try it." And she said, "Mommy, do you dive?" I have no track record of success with diving. I have a fear of falling, water, being seen in a swimsuit, belly flops, wedgies, and, oh, I'm Asian, so I can't fail or lose face. What I wanted to say to her was what I'd said so many times about so many things before. No, Mommy doesn't do that. But I couldn't, because I wanted her to try. And what kind of example was I setting if all I ever did was cheer from a bench? So I set up 2 diving lessons. And after the first one, which was pretty much just falling in from the side of the pool, my teacher took me to the diving board for the second. Do you want to see what happened? That's me. I still can't believe it. I have this Greek chorus that I carry around with me in my head, and it's always going, "This will not end well." And I remember it following me all the way up the ladder. "What are you doing? You're gonna make a fool out of yourself. It's not like you're gonna be an Olympic diver. Come down from there before you hurt yourself." She's still doing it. What will the neighbors think? I remember standing like on the edge of the board, and it was wobbling, and my thighs were wobbling, and the teenagers behind me were laughing at something, and the voice is saying, "You don't have to do this." And the image of my daughter's face coming up, and the life that I want for her, and I thought, yes, I do have to do this. And I went head first into the deep end. I remember hitting with this big, clarifying splash. I did it. I dove. And I thought, if I could do this, something I never thought I could do, well then, anything is possible. I became fascinated by how fears held for a lifetime could become dispelled within a matter of minutes. And I started thinking, well, what other limits have I set in my life that don't have to be? I started writing about facing fears, and very quickly realized that I wasn't alone, that everybody has something that they're afraid of. So the way that I felt about diving, other friends of mine felt about chairlifts, or driving at night, or asking someone out on a date. And although the specific things that kept us sort of bundled up tight in ourselves, although the specific things were different, the underlying reasons for having them, fear of pain, of rejection, of feeling out of control, these were all things that we had in common, we could all relate to. And when we talked about it and thought about it, our reasons for being the way that we were very different. Some people blamed overprotective parents. Some people blamed parents who sent them out and exposed them to all sorts of dangerous things. Some people had traumatic things happen to them, and others had traumatic things happen to people they knew or loved. Others had very overactive imaginations. Okay, so now the thing is, once you start talking about what you're afraid of and how it has affected your life, and you see that fear has a way of pushing in, you start to wonder what would happen if we pushed back, right? How could we make that change in our life? And for me, I had a big fear of moving water. And I could tell you exactly why. I almost drowned when I was on a river when I was a teenager. Why you would put a girl from the Bronx in a river in the first place, set up to fail. And I knew that this would be a tough fear to conquer because our brain is wired to remember the moments that we were most in danger the most vividly. So I knew that it might take a while, but I really wanted to do it because I had seen So many families having a good time on the beach, and I wanted to be one of them. So I committed. I swam laps, I practiced relaxation techniques, I went to the beach for a couple of trial runs, and then I got cocky. I bought a boogie board. So now do you want to see how that turned out? Yes, I strode bravely into the Atlantic, and then a wave came and knocked me over and broke my foot, which sent me right back to the couch. I thought, enough facing fears for now. I'm going to go back to studying. So I decided to interview experts, teachers, coaches, therapists about how they help people overcome their fears. I had a lot to learn. And I wanted to share a few of my favorite findings with you. So let's look at the heart at the top. That stands for emotions. And emotionally focused therapy says that our fears are there to protect us from feeling pain. And if you were to ask yourself, if you were to say fear, what are you protecting me from? The answer is often something that happened a long time ago, but that we keep alive in our imagination, so it feels like it's really present. Other times, it's something that happened to someone else. It didn't even happen to you, but you've personalized it. So it may be liberating to know that you don't have to be a pack rat because it was your mom and not you who lived through the Depression. Over there's my little doodle of a brain. I don't know if you can tell, I was not very good at art, and I never took classes because it was a waste of time. That brain stands for cognition. So cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, looks at how our thoughts can impact our feelings and our behavior. And often our fears are rooted in irrational thoughts. So our fears are based on things that don't even make sense. If you were to think, I must succeed, or else I can't stand it. Okay, so if you have a fear of failure, that might feel real. It might feel like if I fail, it's the end of the world. I'm familiar with that one. But is it really the end of the world? Cognitive behavioral therapists would say, we often catastrophize in our thinking and the way we speak to ourselves. And if you were to de-escalate that language, if you were to make it more realistic and say, I want to succeed, and so I'm going to work really hard too. But if this doesn't work out for me, if this one task in front of me doesn't work out, life will go on. So this is a really hard one for me, but I work on it because I think that it's important. Then we have our little meditating happy person here under the word acceptance. And ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, talks about how our feelings and our thoughts, yes, they're there, and often they're uncomfortable when we're afraid and when we're stressed, but that's a part of life. And maybe we don't need to spend time arguing with ourselves over whether we should be feeling afraid. Maybe we should just accept that we do, and that suffering is a part of life. So we accept these tough feelings, and then we commit to doing what's important anyway. We don't let these feelings stop us from doing what we value. So you may feel stressed giving a speech. You may feel stressed getting on an airplane. But if it's important to you to communicate your ideas, if it's important to you to see the person that you love, then you're going to do it anyway. It reminded me of something that Radhanath Swami said to me. Whether we fear pain or suffering or not, pain and suffering will come to everyone. So why not just keep ourselves focused on where we want to go? A professional coach named Tony Smith said to me in an interview that he believes that each one of us, so even suburban moms with a fear of going to the beach, each one of us has the power to change the world. And then he pointed to my notebook where I was taking copious notes, and he said, this being a good student, this observing the world as it is not the way there. This notebook was my lovey. This notebook is what I knew how to do. And Tony was saying that I should let it go because I needed to imagine a greater future and then go out and create it. Well, that was about the best advice that a writer could get. Because when you think about it, what makes a good story? Plots that thicken, twists and turns, characters that change, that do things that are out of character. Characters who are different tomorrow than they were today. And that was not happening in my comfort zone. So I did it. I went out there. And mamas, don't let your kids grow up to be writers, because they might do something crazy. Like this. I did eventually, after a lot of work, hard work, mental, physical, emotional, I did face my fear of moving water. I did it by learning to surf in Lake Michigan in the winter when the water was 36 degrees. So people often ask me if anything surprised me in the course of facing my fears, and everything surprised me. This surprised me that I could do this out there on Lake Michigan. It was cold, it was difficult, there were parts that were very painful, but I wasn't closing my eyes and wishing for it to be over. When I was paddling, I was awake, and when I stood up, I was alive, and every time I fell over, and there were many times when I fell over, every time that I got back on, I thought, I'm stronger than I thought. I was also surprised by how I thought that when I faced my fears, I would do it alone, because that's how I held my fears my whole life, was by myself. And so I thought the process of facing them would be soldiering through to do something that was good for me and good for my family. And actually, when you step out of your comfort zone, you meet other people. It turns out that fear gravitates to lonely people on comfy couches. It does not survive out in the sunshine with friends who are busy doing new things, because that's where courage resides. And then the best part, I think, is that when we get excited, when we start to shimmer, the world is never the same. Children may be inspired to go to new places or to take a plunge. Friends may be inspired to new heights. And this is me with a gang of my friends who are all afraid of heights, going up on a ropes course. And this is what the care of the future is about. It's about hard work and excellence, yes, but it's also about caring that we and everyone around us gets to live the fullest life possible. And in order to do that, you have to come down from the lofty perch of your achievements and come out from behind your darkest doubts and come together to challenge each other, to encourage each other, to never stop growing, to be able to greet each day with an open heart and with fresh eyes. And so I want to challenge you because I care about you. Here's a fill in the blank. We all love fill in the blanks. So I will face my fear of what? Pick something good. By what means? How will you do it? Will you post this to Facebook and ask a friend if they'll come help you? Will you do a little online research to find a class? And then for extra credit, by when? And don't say that you don't have time to take this on, because in 3 seconds, you can dive or fall with style into a swimming pool. In 1 minute, you could propose a toast. In 1 afternoon, you could learn to ride a bike. And the goal is not the Tour de France. The goal is to try something new with no expectations, just possibility. Imagine that. So in a little while, in a short while, you've been sitting for a while, you are going to get up. You're going to stand up and stretch, and you're going to go out there. You're going to leave this nice learning space and go out into the world. And what will you do? Well, one thing I know is if you choose to step out of your comfort zone, exciting things could happen. Oh, I hope you do. Thank you very much.